Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I am Anastasia Mili, a watercolor artist from Australia. And this is something very different to my usual videos. You might have noticed that I have been trying new things for this channel. I have had it for probably 4 years now, and I wanted to try vlogging, studio vlogging, because I really enjoy watching other artists' vlogs, and I have a few things to share with you, so let's try it. If you guys like watching this type of content on my YouTube channel, I will try and do it probably every month or so, every few weeks, depending on how busy I am, and we'll see how we go. So in this first vlog, I would like to talk to you about all the unfinished projects I have at the moment. I would like to tell you about things I'm working on. When it comes to unfinished paintings, I normally have at least 4 or 5 sitting on my desk, and this is the practice that helps me continue painting even if I feel not inspired. And the reason for that is I already have something that I have started, and I do not need to spend time thinking about what to paint. I already have things on the go. And also another very exciting thing about watercolor painting for me personally is starting a new painting, because that first initial wash that is very playful, very free, very fluid is such a fun thing to create. And I sometimes start a painting just for the sake of starting a painting. I do not have any ideas in mind. All I want to do is to play with my colors, and I just throw some paint onto the paper and, tilt it in different directions and see where it takes me. Sometimes it does take me nowhere. Sometimes after I finish this initial wash, it just sits on my desk for weeks because I honestly have no idea how to proceed with it. But sometimes I finish one very quickly. But again, I do not paint for the finished products. I paint for the joy of the process. And the paradox is, when I enjoy the process, I actually quite like the finished product. But if I find a painting being very challenging, very stiff, very demanding, like for example painting from photographs, even if it looks good, I often do not feel this emotional connection to it compared to the paintings that were full of that playfulness, that joy of just making art for the sake of making art. And again, this is one of the reasons why I always have multiple paintings on the go, just because it's fun to start a new one. So with my unfinished paintings, one of the other reasons I enjoy having multiple on the go is that when I'm stuck on one, I can move on to another one, and that break from the other painting that is not working out actually often helps me to see it with fresh eyes when I come back to it, and then I can continue and I can figure out what to add to it. So as many of you know, if you have been watching my channel for a while, I paint spontaneously and without a plan. So I very often do not use any reference. I just use my imagination, and I throw the paint on paper, and I kind of see what it looks like, and if I can develop a landscape out of that abstract wash. And that often leads to problems. That often leads to pretty much painting myself into a corner where I do like the wash, but I have no idea what to add to it to actually make it into something that looks like a landscape. And having these multiple scenes happening at the same time helps me switch from the one I'm stuck on and still keep painting if I have the time to paint on that day. So I do not have to worry about, oh, I need to come up with an idea. I already have things to work on, so I just jump between them and spend the time that I have to spend on my painting in the studio, in my studio space. I spend it on actually working on something. And I normally have multiple paintings in different stages of completion as well. One, for example, is just like that first initial abstract wash that I have no idea what to do with yet. And then the next one would be something I'm working on from a reference photo. So there is a plan. It's a bit of a different workflow. and then there would be something that is almost done, but I do not know what, like, one small thing it needs to finally be complete. So this really helps me to keep going, even if I am short on time or if I am not really feeling inspired on that day. So let me tell you about the paintings I'm currently working on. So Exhibit A, I already did show it to you in the sketchbook 2 video that I posted just recently. I haven't added anything to it, but it is sitting on my desk, and I know it will come to me, how to bring it home, how to complete it. So I think something wants to be in the background here just to balance the boat, but I'm not sure if I want to add anything there as yet, because I'm afraid I will actually disturb the paint in here and then it will become quite ugly. So I'm, not brave enough to add anything else to it yet, or maybe I will just leave it as is. It doesn't look complete to me as yet, but maybe in a few weeks it will. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see, time will tell. And I quite like this part. I like the silver lining, I like the contrast of the really bright light against the silhouette of the boat, but I think something needs to balance it, like I don't know, some maybe bushes in the foggy distance. We'll see. And my studio is literally in the corner of our living room, so I can see my desk from our, when I walk past it, when I don't know, cook dinner in the kitchen. And having these things on display and looking at them from a distance also helps me to figure out what to add to it, because sometimes it's better to look at things from a few meters, because when we paint we are quite close to this, and sometimes we do not notice quite a few things that are going wrong or are not working out or should be there, and they're not there yet. So looking at them from 10 meters approximately is quite helpful in figuring out what else a painting needs. So I love this one. I'm in love with all the soft transitions here and the way the light falls on the boat, and this is the focal point. And the contrast of the really sharp lines against the soft background wash makes it very engaging, and the tonal value contrast is quite strong here already. So it's strong enough because the boat is almost black, and we also have very bright whites here. So it is almost there, but not there yet, but I'll get there. Now let's move on to this one. This one I'm painting from a photo I took in the Blue Mountains years ago. I think these are mountain gums or grey gums. There are like 900 species of gum trees, of eucalyptus. Some of them have these, when the bark is peeling, it's like it creates these long ribbons that just hang off branches or line the floor, and then they peel off the trunks and they create this sculpture-like effects when you look at these trees. It's really, really Australian, and I found this picture recently that popped up in my photo memories, and I thought this would be a perfect reference to study this type of gum trees. And I like the colors on the bark as well, so these are very unfinished. I like the strong lines here and all the verticals that are going up. It creates a nice dynamic in the composition. This is going to be my focal point. This is very far away from being complete because the tonal value contrast in the focal point, which is going to be like this area, is not strong enough. So we need to darken the shadows here and here for the tree to become less flat, and for the shadows to really make the highlights glow. And having a strong tonal value contrast in a painting, in a scene, is something I'm always trying to achieve in my work. So this is a good example where if you look at the background, it might already look strong enough, the tonal value contrast, but it's not strong enough yet. So the background is done, it is complete, but I need to really darken the shadows here and here, and on this bug here, I need to add smaller details. I am already in love with it, and I do not always enjoy using photos for my paintings, because when I use the photos I feel like I stiffen up way too much and I like painting loose. This one is quite structured, so we can see the very defined edges of all the gum trees, but I like this effect here because I want these gum trees to really pop. So far so good, we'll see. Hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, it's fine, it's just paper. I think this one has been sitting on my desk for a month, and it happens quite often when I have these paintings sitting here unfinished for a very long time. I wanted to just play with Luna Black. I think I started with like freshly squeezed paint straight onto the paper, not onto the palette, but it went straight onto the paper. Then I added water, and then I tilted it in different directions to allow the water to flow into this really thick Luna Black wash, and see what I could create out of that abstraction. Then I noticed it looked like a mountain in the distance, and these things looked like tree trunks. So I added the sky and the foliage. The current problem with this one is that we have way too much contrast here, too far away from the focal point. So I will have to soften the contrast here to make sure that the viewer's eye doesn't slide out. I think it is close to being complete. We probably need some rocky areas here. I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see if it works. Also, what I do sometimes when I am stuck on a painting and I literally cannot for the life of me figure out what it wants, what it needs, I use my iPad, and I use an app called Procreate, which is, you know, you all probably know about that app, and then I try to add elements of the landscape, like trees, rocks, you know, birds, grassy patches, or strengthen the tonal value contrast and see if it works. Especially if I am quite precious about this, you know, pretty wash, then I can try things without actually adding any paint. And what I like about this one is the soft color transitions here, and I quite like the contrast between the blue sky and this yellow tree crown. It's quite a fun one. I love Luna Black. I love playing with all the abstract elements it can create. This was another... I started it because I wanted to experiment with the same silver lining effect, but now not on like a sunset scene, but more of a stormy sky scene. I haven't removed the masking yet. I think I overdid the darks here. They are probably too heavy. Also, not sure I like this hill. I was trying to use a cooler green. I think it was Sub Green by Michael Harding here to kind of push the hill into the distance, but I actually think color-wise a warmer green would probably look better here to play with the warmer areas in the clouds. So again, it has been sitting here for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure how to proceed with it and what to do next, but I think when I come back to it eventually in a couple of days when I have the time, I will remove the masking fluid and soften the edges. This will give me the whitest whites in the sky, and it might look better. If a painting starts looking better, it actually encourages me to keep going and not to give up on it. So we'll see how we go with this one. I was thinking of maybe placing a tree in here and placing a very strong highlight on the tree, so it's in line with the highlights on the clouds. Maybe like a fir tree, like an evergreen tree. And I'm still not sure what to do here. This is another example of a situation when creating a very fun initial wash kind of led me nowhere. It was a lot of fun playing with different colors on the wet paper, but then once it dried, I'm not actually sure I liked the result, but I'm not giving up on it yet. We'll see how we go. So this is another one that's been here for a while. I really love the light in here, and it started with lots of water and lots of paint just flowing around. I think the horizon is a bit crooked, so I'm not sure what to do with it yet. I already tried to mask that crooked horizon by placing this green bush in the back. I quite like the effects. I quite like the contrast between the greens and the oranges here and the warm yellows. It looks very fresh, and the foreground needs to be darker, I reckon. I have also started 2 new sketchbooks. So I showed you this blank sketchbook in my sketchbook 2 video a couple of weeks ago. So this sketchbook is the one that has been to New Zealand and back, and it came back blank still because I just never found the time to paint while we were in New Zealand, but I did finally start painting in it. So this is just the first sketch that I created in it. I'm in love with this scene, and it is a bit more complex than the first sketch in my other sketchbook. So this was the first page in my other sketchbook that I showed you, that I have the video for, with the tour of the whole thing. And I did talk about how I like painting simple and familiar to me subjects on the first page, just to fill it in and move on and start that sketchbook. Because you know how sometimes you have this pretty expensive, really precious cotton paper sketchbook and you freeze just looking at it because it's just too good and you are afraid of spoiling the first page. When I start my sketchbooks, I often just paint something quick and easy. This one is a bit more complex than this first page, but I have painted similar scenes numerous times, so it was quite easy for me. And I was coming back to one of my favorite color combinations: warm yellows, soft oranges, some Potter's pink, warm greens, and I add touches of lavender to the shadows to brighten everything up. There is a lot of tonal value contrast here, there is a lot of color contrast here. It's a really fresh looking scene, and I think it's quite a nice start to this sketchbook. I have also started this one. I've had it for at least 2 years, if not longer. It's so cute. This is by Bao Hong. I remember I just picked it up from an art supply store. I held it in my hands and thought it was just so precious. So the paper in these ones is Bao Hong Academy. It's a much smaller size than I normally paint on in cotton. So I wanted to see how my brushes, how easy it would be to paint this with my regular brushes. I like it. Again, just another simple scene. So I also keep paintings that I have recently finished and that I like sitting on my desk because I find them very motivational. They are proof that I can actually finish a painting if I spend enough time and effort on it. So you might have seen this on my Instagram. This is a painting of Mitre Peak in Milford Sound that I have recently completed. I love it and I love looking at it. So it's been on my desk for a while and I glance at it when I walk past or when I'm sitting here and painting. And I think it's important to actually frame and hang our work, but if you do not have the time or the space for framing, watercolor paper is thick enough to kind of just stand there. So yeah, I love looking at it. And also this one, I have posted it on Instagram, and actually the inspiration for this came from this painting that I completed probably 2 weeks ago. So the color schemes are quite similar. And again, this was very comfortable to paint after completing this one. So I think this is enough for the first vlog. I hope you have found some things that I talked about here interesting or useful. Let me know if you have any questions and also what else you would like me to talk about. I was thinking maybe to do a tour of my studio corner of my setup. Thank you for watching and happy painting!